to Brandon's accident, he was a regular teenager, grade 12, so graduation, very social, excellent soccer player. So he did a lot of sports, basketball and soccer, and he also worked. The accident happened quite early in the morning, but I was not notified until late in the afternoon. 2 officers from the fatal car crash team had come to my door wanting to know if I had a son who drove a blue Honda Civic, and they actually showed me a ring in their phone in the photograph to see if that was his ring. I said yes, he did drive a blue Honda Civic, and that looks like his ring. My understanding was, I'm told that it was raining, cold, and it was late. He, I believe, had given a friend a ride home to Richmond. There was an undercover officer behind him, so he wasn't speeding or anything. He ended up swerving over the divider. He hit a semi and he bounced back up against a tree, and the car had started on fire. The 2 officers behind him got out, went over and realized there was somebody in the car, and they could not, he was pinned in, they couldn't get him out. In the meantime, the 2 officers, one of them in particular, had gone to an apartment building across the street and was banging on doors and yelling for anybody to give them a fire extinguisher. They had gone through quite a few, I believe maybe about 9 or 10, and I think a news truck or something had also come by, and one of the officers had stopped them to get the fire extinguishers in order to keep them on Brandon for the units to respond. There was also another officer who said she was not going to let go of his hand until he actually got into the ambulance, and that's when she let go of him. They had told me that he's more than likely broken every bone in his face, cracked the top of his palate, his eye was crushed, they weren't sure about the ear because they had taken x-rays of Brandon when he had come in through emergency. One arm was severely burnt and cut. That's how I first met Dr. Pirani. That's the first thing they worked on with Brandon, was his arm when he came in. So they were, and I remember going into his room, and I had never seen so many machines in all my life. He was hooked up to so many machines. But the 2 physicians were just constantly, even coming into the waiting room and giving me an update on Brandon, hour by hour. It was unbelievable that, especially Sarah, just the extra little bit I noticed, she was just constantly letting me know that he's getting better, he's still hanging on, he's doing well. So she was very encouraging for me. The following day, when they actually they realized he was breathing on his own and he was, he was hanging on, they started to clean him, taking the black off him and realizing he wasn't burnt as much as they thought. They had taken a few more x-rays, and they had said that that was even also looking better. It was approximately about 2 weeks in ICU, 2 to 3 weeks in ICU, and then they moved him down to trauma. He continued, that's where he had most of his plastic surgery done while he was in the trauma unit. He was there with Dr. Pap, that's where we first met Dr. Pap. I would say he probably spent a month in the trauma unit, approximately a month. And then from there they moved him to the burn unit, where he spent about 2 to 3 months, 2 months in the burn unit. I felt very comfortable around Dr. Pap. And the one thing I did admire about him was he said it like it was. He was very right to the point. It's not going to work, it's not going to work. There was no going around the mulberry bush with him. Dr. Pap, he was very honest. If it was something that wasn't going to work, he was going to tell us it wasn't going to work. The nurses in the burn unit, Brad and I got very close with them. Very, very committed. Wow, how do I explain them? They were just a wonderful group to have up there in that unit. I would tell myself quite a few times, it obviously has to be a certain person that could come up and do this type of a job, because I never saw any one of them falter. They were always very, very easygoing, smiling. Just a really good group, a really good group. Yeah. Brandon still keeps in touch with some of them. If he had had that accident 20 years ago, they wouldn't have had the expertise or the equipment or the staff, even the specialized staff, in order to get him through all of those surgeries. Having that money for research, in order for them to come this far, that's what I'm trying, for them to come this far, is based on those who donate. And I'm sure they're farther to go. I really believe that. I really believe that.